Reinventing the wheel is not something that you see many airlines attempting to do these days, especially ones that are, relatively speaking, smaller carriers. To that though, Finnair said, very politely, "Hold my blueberry juice." At a time in the industry when it feels like the vast majority of carriers are using one of two all-aisle access business class products, Finnair was on a mission to not only be different, but to also try to make a difference too. I am of course referring to Finnair's revolutionary Air Lounge seat, the world's only flatbed business class seat that doesn't recline or flip forward or do any tricks like that. Is it the best business class seat that I've ever sat in? No. But I do have to say, it's one that I do think has endless potential, if only another significant airline would care to take that same Arctic plunge, alongside Finnair. By the way, if you're ever curious how much I paid for this or any other flight, the exact price out of pocket is always in the description. Let me welcome any of you that might be new to the channel. My name is Kevin. I'm here to give you a self-funded and honest look at some of the best, most unique, or simply most popular airlines and hotels in the world, which I've been bringing to you full-time for going on 5 years now. I'd love for you to know more about how I do things on the channel, so simply scan the QR code or check out my hundreds of videos to do so. Let's get into the trip report. Welcome to Helsinki-Vantaa International Airport, which lies to the north of Helsinki itself. I just arrived on a very pleasant Finnair flight from Oslo, which I arrived at from Copenhagen, and a couple months ago I was in Stockholm. And all I have to say is, I would happily live in these Nordic airports collectively. They're all so sleek and inviting in their own ways. Let's go take a look at the lounge first, and then I'll get into how, or perhaps why, they're trying to reinvent the wheel, or, well, the wing. Finnair apparently saw SAS's subtle branding and said, "I'll raise you white on white." I walked right past it. I'm not fancy enough for the Platinum Wing, so I headed to the business class lounge, which is spacious and beautifully designed, with a decent selection of food. But the further you walk into it, I can't help but feel like you're in a bit of a cave. The lounge doesn't have any exterior windows, but at least some natural light is on one side. But in the rear near the bar, it feels a bit more like a warehouse that they put a bar in than a cozy space. I assume that was the plan at least. Maybe this is all just a daylight problem, as in maybe at night it looks wonderful. Anyway, not actually a problem. It's a great lounge, but I just always have a bone to pick with flagship lounges that don't have views of the airport, or at least exterior windows of any sorts. That's just me. The food spread on offer was pretty nice though. Tonight, I'm actually heading to Bangladesh. But first, I need to get to Dubai with Finnair. My previous flight on Finnair, some years ago, was not everything that I'd hoped for. So I was really looking forward to today's. Especially since Finnair has finished their business class retrofitting process, so I was guaranteed to get the new Air Lounge seat. Those are actually the lounge's windows, but my favorite windowless space actually became this AV atrium of sorts. So, Finnair. Having begun operations in 1923, they're one of the oldest continuously operating airlines on Earth. In my opinion, there have been three key events or goals throughout their tenure, which define the airline as it is today. The first, and arguably the most important, for those under the age of 7, is that Finnair is officially the airline of Santa Claus, a designation given to them by Blitzen, I presume, in 1983, when they flew their first transpolar route to Tokyo. Flights like that one to Tokyo defined Finnair for decades to come. Their niche depended heavily on their ability to easily connect Europe to Eastern Asia due to Helsinki's strategic location. As we all know though, that location became a liability in 2022 when Russian airspace was closed to EU carriers. The airline, in as graceful a fashion as could possibly be done facing such headwinds, pivoted their focus a bit more towards the US and the Middle East, and then tried their best to ensure that their fleet was being utilized. While Qatar Airways was having their dispute with Airbus, Finnair was flying some of Qatar's Nordic routes on their behalf, and to this day, 2 of their A330s, like the one that we'll be flying today, are leased to Qantas, who uses them on select services from Sydney to Singapore and Bangkok. Otherwise, Finnair has reduced their flying to East Asia as the detour just makes many of those routes that they used to fly no longer viable. Even my flight to Dubai, which is a seasonal destination for Finnair, is affected. We flew south-southwest for 75 minutes before turning in the general direction of our destination. The third thing has a lot to do with Finnair's pledge to be carbon neutral by 2045. Now, I'll be honest, I'm always a bit wary of when airlines or hotel brands make changes to the passenger or guest experience in the name of environmentalism, since it's often just a veil, let's be honest. But in this case, their new seats, which are significantly lighter since there's no complex mechanisms in them, are the real deal. Or at least they are a great starting point for what is hopefully a deeper dive into reducing weight, all the while focusing on comfort. If you're enjoying the video and would like to support the channel, there are many ways that you can do so. A quick like on the video and subscribe helps videos with the algorithm. You could join my YouTube channel memberships to get early access to some videos and access to all of my community posts. Or you could check out my Patreon, where I post the most, and can help you out with any travel related questions. Whatever you do, thanks for doing it. We boarded right on time, today flying a 14-year-old A330-300, and I'd be making my way to seat 1L. And here's that now famous seat. It is a padded fixed back shell, a cocoon as they'd like you to think of it, with a seat bottom that is also fixed in place. Rather than having what I guess are hundreds of pounds of equipment and machinery to recline the seat into bed mode, there are just two very simple portions that manually flip up to fill the space between the seat and the footrest. Storage around the seat is decent, and there are quite a few modern touches such as a wireless phone charger built into the side table. I do wish though that the universal outlet wasn't at floor level. I was in the bulkhead today, which in a unique way for them means that the footwell is a bit deeper, but also a bit narrower. I was really excited to try this seat for one very specific reason: Singapore Airlines. Their business class seats flip forward to make a bed. When I fly SQ, I love to flip the seat forward and then just sit on top of the bed using the big shell of the seat as a backrest. Literally the same as what's being done here. The only problem for me with this seat though is that the seat itself is far too short. There is a section of the seat that extends upwards, but then it's too deep. I'll show you what I mean in a bit. The seat depth aside, the seat is nearly everything that I hoped for, just on a little bit of a smaller scale than I was expecting, including that fixed shell. Probably my fault for having the SQ fixed shell, which is massive, in mind as a point of reference. Pre-departure drinks were passed around in Finnair's gorgeous signature glassware from the Ultima Thule series. The glassware was designed by Tapio Wirkkala in 1969 and introduced on Finnair's New York service the same year. Nearly 6 decades later, they're still as beautiful and modern as ever. The safety video began and we pushed back. As we approached the runway, we stopped for a while before the captain came on and told us that there was an issue that they were working through. Some 15 minutes later, we needed to return to the gate to fix the problem.
We unfortunately have to return to our parking stand. I will give you further information as soon as I have it. I'm very sorry about the delay, but the safety, of course, is our number one priority, and thank you for your patience.
All in all, we were delayed by an hour and 45 minutes, and the flight crew kept us well informed throughout, keeping our hopes high that this was something that was fixable, it just needed time. After a while, the crew came through with Finnair's famous blueberry juice, and a while later, in business class, they passed out sandwiches. Now, I noticed that this was on the menu as the pre-arrival menu. I presume this meant that there wouldn't be a pre-arrival meal, so I just stowed that away for later. Okay, so here's what it looks like when you extend the seat base. It's just too deep to sit as a seat now. But even if it wasn't, it's impossible to put your legs down there in that narrow gap. So I ended up spending the majority of the flight sat exactly like this. The seat extension is controlled by electronics, and the other bit to flip forward is manual. Okay, let's try this again. Hot towels were passed out soon after takeoff. Let's take a look at the comfort items on board. As Finnair promised when they introduced this seat, there are a few of them. There are 2 pillows, one standard size and one small bolster pillow. Finnair touted the variety of pillows that they'd be offering so you could get yourself comfortable in the seat. To that end, I'm not sure this was enough, especially since I needed to use that small pillow as an armrest, given that the seat lacks one on the inside of the shell. The blanket was soft and cozy, and there was also a very thin mattress pad, which we'll see in a little while. Finally, for now, a really nice pair of slippers. The seat itself doesn't have doors, but privacy is pretty decent, this being my view from eye level. The meal service started with some mixed warm nuts and a drink service. I chose their signature gin and lingonberry cocktail, Northern Blush. Here's a look at the full menus. Note that the red prices are my addition to the graphic just to give you an idea of the wine value on board. Of course, they're free to drink. If you'd prefer, Finnair offers meal selections ahead of time, online. Since I knew I was in the first row and I couldn't imagine how things could be sold out by the time I ordered, I chose to wait until on board. I think there are plenty of occasions when a tray service is perfectly fine, if not preferred, in business class. But I'm not a fan of the entire meal being served on a single tray at the same time. For long-haul services, LATAM is the only other carrier that I know of that does this consistently. In their case, though, they're on late-night departures, so it kind of makes sense. Here, in the middle of the day, not so much. That said, everything was delicious. The starter was bellinis with shrimp skagen, trout roe, pickled red onion, and dill. For the main, there were three choices: smoked rainbow trout, paneer masala, or what I chose, the beef with potato gratin, pumpkin, broccoli, corn, and creamy pepper sauce. The main dish was hearty, and the vegetables with a little bit of char on them were really flavorful. There was also a mini cheese plate and a mini chocolate mousse dessert. I was happy to see that there was a bit of geographic diversity to their wine list, and at the end of the meal, I also tried their blueberry port. Nearly the exact same meal, served as a course-by-course tray service, or at least keeping the dessert and cheese till the end, I think would be more appropriate. But on taste alone, the full meal gets a 9 out of 10. Entertainment on board was great. Plenty of options in a modern and responsive system without a super reflective screen and a new generation moving map. That's about as good as it gets for a European carrier. The headphones were the standard premium type that you'll find on a number of airlines these days, and they get the job done well. As a full bed experience, this is where the Air Lounge shines. While many other seats will give the same width, the same dimensions in general, it will be spread over different armrests and seat components and things like that. Here it's just one continuous surface, which made for a very comfortable experience. I'm not sure if this is a normal thing for Finnair, but they never use the galley curtains, so I would avoid the first row on night flights if you're looking for sleep. The crew on board this flight were fantastic and similar to my flight from Oslo. I'd say that they were somewhere between, bubbly and pleasant, but they were not all that present in the cabin after the meal service unless you called them. Considering they gave out the sandwiches on the ground and the meal service was a single tray, I gather that this was one of the easiest 6-hour flights that they've worked in a while. I wanted to make my own private pre-arrival meal, so let's start off with the amenity kit, which is designed by Finnair's long-term partner, Marimekko. The design itself is the highlight here, with minimal offerings inside, along with a note letting you know that the hand and the body lotion is in the restrooms. And indeed it was. Bathrooms were fresh and kept very tidy throughout the flight. Now for that chicken sandwich. It was actually really good, and the fact that those were roasted peppers and not tomatoes, I hate raw tomatoes, made it all the better. Soon after that, we were starting our initial descent into Dubai. Finnair has sort of turned into the world's most minimal full-service carrier. My business class light ticket didn't include seat selection, checked-in baggage, or lounge access. I accessed the lounge and selected my seat for free due to One World Sapphire status. Without that, you'd need to pay a hefty fee to select your seat. And don't think about changing or refunding your ticket, because you can't. That minimalism, as you saw, continues on board, from the seat design to the meal service. All of that said though, they are an airline in a really difficult position at the moment, no pun intended. and they've managed to not only stay afloat, but also remain profitable. Finnair's fares on the routes they fly are often the cheapest, for the business light fare at least, and so, in this case, it is what it is. Without status, I'd pay $100 for my seat. I don't need the checked-in baggage, and I'll forego the lounge. In many cases, the total payment would still be a lot cheaper than any other European carrier, so it's give and take. Would I fly them again? Absolutely. Will I be seeking them out specifically to fly this seat again? No. I can safely bring them up to a 6. Limited interaction with the crew, a single tray meal, things like this are what kept them from being a 7 in my book. So I really do hope that you enjoyed this trip report today. If you did, please be sure to click that like button and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss my weekly flight and hotel videos. I'll see you next time from right here in Dubai on Biman, Bangladesh. As always, thanks for watching until the end.